We're going to build the wall. It's going to be a big, fat, beautiful wall. We're going to build that wall. We're going to have the wall. We're going to have the wall. We need the wall. The wall. Has anyone ever heard about the wall?
And the wall just got 10 feet taller.
I declare, I'm not going to pay for that wall. He should pay for it.
I'm back, and I'm better than ever. Got a knack for making things better. Face facts, 'cause your opinion don't matter. This maniac is gonna step on whomever.
All right, this is the Devil's Advocate, where we talk about news and current events.
My name is Brandon. I'm your host.
I'm also your host, Mitchell Hernandez.
And the Devil's Advocate is basically an opinion talk show for the common man. I guess the thing is, like, we got sick of turning on news outlets every week and find the same talking points, depending, like, just based on whatever their agenda is. So the point of the Devil's Advocate is to feel like a conversation that you've had in real life. Maybe a liberal like myself and a conservative like Mitch come together, have a conversation, disagree, don't kill each other. It's a crazy idea, I know. The other crazy idea to keep in mind is that Mitch and I, not experts. You should not hang on every word that we say, because if you do, you will only find disappointment and erectile dysfunction. So,
All right, let's get started.
all right. Well, this week, a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, it was a productive week.
Second week of Devil's Advocate.
Yep.
First week of Donald Trump's presidency. And if next week is anything like this week, my head's gonna explode. So lots of stuff happened. Executive orders out.
Lots of executive orders, yep.
But I guess the one that everybody's talking about, everybody's thinking about right now, is the ban that we put on travel and immigration
countries.
from 7 Muslim countries. So, what do you think?
Well, I think that, just preliminary thoughts, I know it's getting a lot of hate right now from all the news outlets and all of that. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, let's be honest. This is what he said he was going to do. This shouldn't have surprised anyone. He said extreme vetting from these countries. I think that he went about doing it in probably not the best way, which is my big problem with it. It's not that he did it. It's that no one really had a chance to get things in order. So people who are, in these other countries are just like, oh, well, shit, I guess I can't come back home. Probably wanted to give them a couple weeks, similar to what Obama did with Russian spies, as he put it. They were just, and give them 3 weeks to pack up and
Do you
leave.
think that it's justified, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's definitely justified.
Why?
Well, let's be honest. I mean, we're looking at the countries. First off, this isn't the first time this has happened. So in 2011, Obama did the exact same thing. And it was from Iraq. They basically said, hey, you know what, for 6 months. A little background to the story is what happened is they found these guys that had come over during this program, and they were basically setting up a plot to trade arms and help people out in Iraq to fight American troops. They found out about it, so as a precaution, they said, okay, for the next 6 months, there is no more immigrating from Iraq. And very similarly, guess who got caught up? There was a journalist who was actually doing help for the U.S. Army who was not able to come back, and he ended up being assassinated before that time was over. So we've done it before, and all of these countries, that these 7 are on the list, they're saying these are people we need to watch, and that's what they based it off of.
You know that of those 7 countries, though, there are other Muslim majority countries, right? We already know the list. Saudi Arabia.
Well, obviously Saudi Arabia wasn't on this one, and I think
United Arab Emirates.
That's money. The money kept them off that list.
Right. Interestingly enough, Donald Trump and his administration have business ties with the 4 countries not on that list, and
I think you'll have a hard time finding people who don't have business ties to these countries.
And those 4 countries not on the list, have caused more American deaths since 9/11 than the 7 countries that are on the list.
Yeah, I definitely have a problem with that. So like I said, I don't have a problem with the 7 that they chose. I think those make sense.
I think we don't
that's
have a problem with refugees coming to this country.
Well, we could have. The
and
whole point was that
we don't. First of all, we don't have a ban list right now.
right.
Well, we still don't. But we don't have a ban list right now. Up until this week, we hadn't had it. We hadn't had these countries put on notice. They weren't. Everybody was allowed to travel.
They kind of should have known. Like I said, he said he was going to do this.
Why?
For
We
like
don't
7-8
have a
months.
problem
With what?
with extreme jihadism in America.
Well, here's the thing. There is a problem in the world right now. Just because we don't have, per se, the largest amount of incidents, guess who does? We have France who has, we have Germany who's seen attacks, and they're cracking down on it.
Since September 11th, the United States has brought in 784,000 refugees.
Mm-hmm.
In that same amount of time, 3 of them have been found to have ties to terrorism. So, or another way to say that is 0.00038% of
And how
refugees have ties to terrorism in the United States since 9/11.
And those numbers probably make you feel good, but how long has ISIS been around? Not that long.
Since 2002.
Not in the capacity that they are right now. They have not been operating.
But they're also not in the capacity that they are today. They are not what they were in 2012.
Well, obviously.
Okay,
But
so
they're obviously
we're
working
trending
on
the
trying
right
to get
way.
it. And luckily, we've been able to
We're
keep a lot
not
of
stopping
refugees out.
anything. We're making ourselves. Republicans are making themselves feel good by putting up walls. There's
No,
no,
I don't think
reason
so.
for it. We don't have a problem.
there is.
The San Bernardino shooter, the Fort Hood shooter, the
Well,
Orlando
first off, San Bernardino,
shooter.
that's exactly what happened. Where do you go to? Yemen or whatever? And then his
Except
girlfriend came back. And
for all 3 of those shooters were Americans.
Yeah.
So we don't have we don't have a problem with refugees coming into this
travel
country.
ban. Guess what they did? They went over there and then they got trained by these sting cells operators, and then they came back and did their plan. That's exactly what they did.
So in 15 years, we've had 3 terrorists that are tied, or 3 refugees tied to terrorism, and in the last 5 years, 250 Americans have left America to join ISIS in Syria. I don't know that we're putting the walls up in the right way.
Well, first off, the wall isn't supposed to be about the refugee issue, so that's
metaphoric
not
wall.
metaphoric. Yeah. But that's a totally different issue. And like I said, those numbers make you sound great. If I go, 2,000 years ago, there was no ISIS attacks. It's going to make you feel good at those numbers. But they're obviously doctored. ISIS is a threat now. And regardless of what people want to think, I think that dumb people don't learn from their mistakes. Average people do learn from their mistakes, but smart people learn from other people's mistakes. And right now, if you look at Europe, we've tried this. We tried doing the mass, bringing in all the refugees, and now they see all the attacks
We don't
that are
have the
happening.
same. And first of all, would it even
Why
make
would it work more in the United States?
Why
than not
would
in-
ISIS wait for 3 years through a refugee program to come into the United States when they could get a radicalized American or radicalized European to come blow us up?
Well, they're obviously trying to do that
way
as well.
easier.
They're trying to inspire
It doesn't make
attacks,
sense.
lone wolf attacks.
What makes Republicans feel good is going back to the way things were, and that's what this is a measure
I don't think
to
it's
do.
ever been the way things were. I mean, we're trying to protect
that's what they're
ourselves and our
trying.
countries.
That's the goal for
What?
the Republican
Is
Party.
that a racist swipe?
Huh?
that
No,
a
it's
racism
not.
swipe?
It's
That's what it sounded
a
like.
it's an era swipe, right? We want to go back to the good old days. It is the essence of conservatism, and
Mm-hmm.
this isn't a necessary step. It's
Well, we
not.
haven't had a problem in the past, but now we're seeing attacks on the rise. And when you look at the
Not-
9/11 attacks, they did.
we
stay
are
there.
not seeing.
We are seeing attacks on the rise. I don't know if you've noticed, but there have been attacks more last year than they were the year before.
In
and
the
more than
United
the year
States.
before. Yes, in the United States.
By Americans,
Yeah, but they have ties to these countries. They go there, they get trained,
right?
and then
Well,
they come
until
back.
you shut down the internet, which Donald Trump may do.
That doesn't train you. You don't click a video and now I know how to be an effective jihadist.
No,
they
but
go to Yemen, they go to these other places and train for the next year, and then they come back. And when they get vetted, they say, I was visiting family. And we go, oh, that sounds legit. And we let them come back in, and then we see an attack.
Right, but you can't. But putting up a ban on Muslim immigration doesn't stop
Let's
that
be honest,
guy
it's not actually a
that's
Muslim
sitting in
ban.
San Bernardino, California, and leaves to go from Yemen. That doesn't stop him from doing that.
If he gets vetted, once he comes back, it's people coming in. It's the travel ban. It's not a Muslim ban. It's a travel ban. And whenever they come in from those countries, we say, what were you doing there? And a little bit more than I was just seeing family. You know, they need to be checked out because this has happened.
I
And
don't-
not only has this happened in the United States, this is happening in Europe at a much higher rate. And I don't want us to become that. It's easy to sit there and say, well, we're not getting attacked, so I don't see the point. We're not supposed to be getting attacked. That's the point. We're supposed to stop attacks. Right now in the world, there are people getting attacked.
Right, but we're not getting attacked without
So let's just let them attack us and then we'll fix it like Europe did? That makes no sense.
But that's predicting an inevitable war that will always come sometimes.
Well,
Like,
do you think we're at war right now?
Yeah, I do think that we're at
and
war
would
right
you
now.
agree with me that it's a guerrilla war? Like, it's a guerrilla style warfare.
Yeah.
They're not going to line up for us like the British did back in the old days.
No,
they're going
I
to
don't
fight
think
with
so.
these secretive tactics where we do have to take preemptive strikes on it. And like I said, if there weren't attacks happening right now in the world, we wouldn't be doing this. But there are.
I will not.
ISIS isn't defeated yet.
No, ISIS isn't defeated, and even though ISIS may someday become weaker, that extremism isn't going to ever be defeated. I won't disagree with you on that.
I think it will. I think that if you cut off the head of the snake, if you snuff out their leaders, now obviously we got that one leader. I can't remember what his name was, Al-Awlaki, I think, and he's been dead for a while, and he's still a big inspiration for a lot of these attacks because his videos persist on the internet. I get that,
right?
But we need to.
So you're never gonna stop.
You got to cut out their organization, and then it will crumble. Eventually, it will crumble if you continue to cut off the heads of the snakes.
But I agree with you. But that is done in
military.
Done in faraway lands. It's not done here. It doesn't.
We don't want it to be done here. That's why we're
right. I get it, but this doesn't seem like a necessary step at all. This seems like an overstep, and it's not the same because you can easily in a second when you decide to pull up Jimmy Carter. Like I'm not going to pretend like Jimmy Carter didn't do a similar thing.
I'm not growing peanuts
with the Iranians, but. This is on a much bigger scale, and
because we're seeing a much bigger movement. These guys are well funded
at the time
and they have social media that they're doing. It's not the same thing. This is a more covert war that we're fighting, and for some reason, liberals won't even admit that we're fighting a war. They just think that in Sunshine Land, if you don't admit to a war, no one tries to kill you.
We're definitely fighting a war, and we've done it the wrong ways because Obama did not handle foreign policy well. I won't disagree with you there. Right. What I do think is that this is a way to make Republicans feel warm and fuzzy. Oh, don't worry. Our white picket fences just went back up, and it's not necessary. It's not going to stop anything from happening. The internet will still exist. Radicalization will still exist, and all this does is bolster more anti-American sentiment.
I actually hate that argument, and I'll tell you why. This is the one that I hear this argument more often than not, and for the life of me, I can't understand it. They think that by us saying that we want to protect ourselves, we might offend someone else so much that they're going to decide to go join a terrorist organization and kill innocent people. I say, fuck that guy. Let him join up. Be in the same room, so when we fucking bomb you, you die. And I don't have to deal with you anymore. Get as many of them in the same room as we can. Because if you get so mad by a country saying, we're going to try some measures to defend ourselves, that you decide to kill innocent people, I don't give a fuck about you.
Okay,
you're a lost cause.
If you can okay, that's fine. But if that becomes an entire region of the world, you now have a problem that you have to think about from all different sides. So
then we have to defend ourselves.
Right, or we could just not start. We could just not
it's
stir
already
the
happened,
pot.
Man. What? You don't want to start the war? The war's already here.
Yeah. No, I get the war against. No one in ISIS is sitting for 3 years to get here to do their thing.
Al-Qaeda did it. They were here, 2 years, learning how to fly planes? I mean, they have these long operations that they go into it. Now, obviously, they like to do the lone wolf operation where they don't even have to do anything.
Right.
Just these dudes that come in and attack. I think that people need to realize.
So you don't think then, just to stay on that lone wolf topic for a second. So you don't think then, as far as your
kick my mic, damn it,
oh, I did too. Your anti-American.
I'm drinking Boston Lager beer. I can't be
anti-American sentiment. That's not a fair argument for you. Doesn't anti-American sentiment kind of bolster up that kid in New Jersey who's already pissed off at America, and now his real family, or he can't get back to his family, or whatever he wants to do. Like, we don't live that life. We don't know what it's like to have to travel across the world.
To want to join a terrorist organization? No, I don't.
Okay, no, but I think you can radicalize somebody that wasn't there, like somebody that wasn't at that step. I think that kid that's not going to just join ISIS if he feels like he's getting crapped on over and over and over again. And now the 1 week old president of the United States just gave his entire family and world the middle finger. You think that pushes you a little bit closer, and then doesn't anti-American sentiment kind of make a difference?
Here's the thing. I don't think that it was Donald Trump who gave him the middle finger. I think it's the news media and the Democrats who have conflated protecting America and keeping it into he hates you. And they're telling him that we don't listen. I'm speaking as a Republican. I don't hate Muslims. I don't hate anyone like that. But for some reason, the left likes to say that we do, just because we say we want to have these measures that help keep us safe. And it's only for a short period of time until they can get handled, make better vetting rules. It makes sense. Like I said, we've done it before under Obama, and it for 6 months from Iraq. It was this exact same situation. So I don't get it. And then
what
all
is
the media?
I know because you say 6 months, and so now I've got a question for you, because I didn't know.
What made you think I'd know the answer?
Last night, as I was clicking around and researching stuff, there were multiple reports. One was that it was a 90-day. Is it a 90-day travel ban? Or
I heard something like that.
I saw 90 days, and I saw 120 days. And
the 4 months.
Yeah, so
I couldn't remember exactly what it is. I could probably pull it up here, but
that may just be the media doing their thing.
No, I read it in the actual executive order. I'd have to go back.
Are there two different points to it?
Yeah, there's a couple. Like, one was obviously the refugee ban, saying that like for this amount of time we're not taking in new refugees, and that's different from travel ban. These are people who we're not admitting them and giving them legal status here, which again I think is the right move. In all of Europe is under an immense burden from these refugees, which if we would have had my way, we would have gone into Syria, created a safe zone in there, and then they wouldn't have even had to leave their own country. They don't want to leave their country.
No, I agree with you.
They would rather stay there. So I don't think bringing them here is the right decision either, though.
Yeah,
we need to just put boots on the ground. We need to bring our military in and
all I know
shut the
is
situation
with the
down.
almost million refugees that we've taken in 15 years. We haven't had a problem. So for me, it's hard to say, well, let's be preventative. Well, okay, like I'm
bringing up those oceans again. Those oceans protect us.
Yeah, those oceans do protect us.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to...
So I guess, it was only 60, 70 people who died from terrorist attacks last year. I mean, we don't need to protect against that. I mean, we're basically not getting attacked.
No, we did. But what's interesting, too, about that 60 or 70... killed last year, that's also the same number for like 15 years. So we don't have a problem. Yeah, we had some incidents last year. That's true. Yeah. We also had 26 Americans since 9/11 have been killed by Muslim jihadists. That was before the Orlando shooting.
Well, obviously.
Right? 50 have died at the hands of white supremacists and anti-governmental fundamentalists. The numbers are identical. So there are extremists on both sides, on all sides. They're not a huge problem.
But that's not the issue we're talking about. We're talking about ISIS. ISIS hasn't been around that long, at least not in the capacity of which we're seeing them right now.
I mean, it's been around for almost an entire presidency.
Yeah, I get that. Well, yeah, we saw them get bolstered up. But when you pull back
and even bolstered up
from
didn't have an issue here.
When we bring in numbers from 2001, it's like, well, guess what? They weren't around. So yeah, it didn't look like it. And again, we're trying to be the smart country. The smart country learns from other people's mistakes. We are seeing this in Europe. If you're not paying attention to Europe, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's happening. All of this is going on. We don't want that to happen in our country. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, I don't disagree that we don't want it to happen. But I would say the good news for Republicans is it's not. So, that's a good thing. We can agree. Now, so what do you think about the court in Brooklyn that stopped this from all happening? Because
I want to
newsflash, if you didn't know, that didn't go through. That was supposed to go through.
They put like a stop order on it.
They put a stop Federal court issued an emergency stay halting Trump's executive order banning immigrants from majority Muslim countries from entering. This was reported on Saturday night.
See, that's their wording. In the executive order, it doesn't say, if you're Muslim, you can't come in. But then they conflate that and they enter it into their own stop order to make it seem as though it is a purely racist move. And I have an issue with that. I don't like that. And not to say that the left and the right both don't do it. I'm just saying in this particular example, it irritates me.
That's fair. It is factual that they are
Yeah, it is,
majority
yeah.
Muslim countries.
Right. America's a majority white country. We're all white, I guess.
The court ruled a habeas corpus petition filed by the ACLU on behalf of 2 Iraqi men who were detained at JFK International Airport on Friday. They were there for,
15 hours? Well, they're still held there right now.
Are they?
The one got out, a journalist. That was why I brought up that example, is because this guy is a journalist who is, not a journalist, an interpreter, who apparently was helping the military, and then he got detained. There's people that apparently, they're like, oh, he's had 2 assassination attempts. He needs to come through. This exact thing happened under Obama, and the guy died because of it. And no one cares. but this one, it's Trump. He's evil. Oh!
No, I don't.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm not familiar with the Obama story, so I can't. I'm not going to comment too much on it because I'll just dig myself a hole. And so instead of doing that,
I'll tell you what. I'll do you a little favor here. I got it already pulled up here. Because it is important to have this juxtaposition to what we're dealing with now, because quite literally it is the exact same thing. So, maybe I'm not going to find it. I'll put a link in the description and all that, because, it's definitely...
So I don't think we'll... I think at the end of the day that liberals and conservatives are probably going to not come too close on this one. On the immigration thing, I do think that you have some valid points. I don't think that there should be zero vetting. I'd like to know what extreme vetting is, because
all I'm saying is
sounds like the X Games, extreme vetting. Oh. So
all I'm saying is if we actually did extreme vetting this time around and it took 15 fucking hours, that's pretty damn quick. I understand that it's an inconvenience. But to figure out if you're a threat to our country or not, and it only takes us 15 hours, I'd say that's pretty expedited.
Extreme.
All right, I do have it pulled up here. So this is from ABC News. It says, as a result of that Kentucky case where they found the people who were trying to bring weapons over, provide weapons for Al-Qaeda to fight us. Let's see here. The State Department stopped processing Iraqi refugees for 6 months in 2011. Federal officials told ABC News, even for those who had heroically helped U.S. forces as interpreters and intelligence assets, one Iraqi who had aided American troops was assassinated before his refugee application could be processed because of the immigration delays. In 2011, fewer than 10,000 Iraqis were resettled as refugees in the U.S., half the number the year before. So we've seen it happen before. And no one said a word. No one cared. And it probably had to do with because...
Swag?
No, because Obama didn't let people know all those things. And Trump is one of those, I'm just going to tell you every single thing I'm doing. And I'm an open book in that case.
Well, welcome to politics, Donald Trump.
Right. And the media has never wanted to destroy anyone more than, Bannon.
Yeah, right.
Just shut up.
Everybody. No, we'll save that for the YouTube.
Yeah. I guess... I don't know. When it comes to it, I understand why we're doing it. I think he went around doing it the wrong way. He should have given people a little more time. Although, like I said,
you at the same time, are you anti-protester on this one?
I'm a little irritated by the protesters just because it seems like liberals they're just really enjoying protesting and gathering in these places now.
I won't disagree.
But you don't know who these guys are. They could be fucking terrorists, and you're like, fucking free them, just do it.
No,
you probably need to do our jobs.
I do agree with you. Just do it. I don't have a problem with this protest, but I will say that in general, liberals listen to your brother. Stop it.
You stop.
Okay, so the first big protest, and I'm getting on a short tangent here. We'll keep it short.
Yeah.
But the first protest was what? Like the first big protest in recent history, past 5 years, Ferguson. Ferguson really blew stuff up, and then it turned into Baltimore.
The riots and everything else.
And I'm not even saying that there shouldn't be protests over police brutality, but what I am saying is that when that turns into every single Tuesday and Saturday, and
right at this point,
we're losing the fight on that one, guys. So,
like, as a Republican for the past 8 years, I've hated my own party. Like, I can tell you how many times I've posted, like, it's really hard being a Republican these days.
Yep.
It's going to be even harder being a Democrat, because not only are they doing the exact same opposition bullshit, they are tripling down on it. Like, they are just Trump could come out and be like, I love Caesar salads. I've had a great Caesar salad. Free the salad! Free the salad! 10,000 march. Let's go. It's just like, guys, give it a fucking rest.
anchovies died to make that dressing, dude.
Right. They're extinct now. Yeah, so they need to give it and they have a right to. So I have no right to say that they need to give it a
No,
rest.
I get it,
I'll
but
catch myself there.
I do agree. I think that I think whenever any side, I won't apply it to liberals. I think liberals now it's becoming very common in the last few years, but I think that like anybody, even the Tea Party when they started in 10, like anybody that just goes out twice a week to protest, like you don't even really believe it. Like you have to schedule this stuff, and like you have to know when.
I hate everything.
What do I hate today?
It's not the end of the world, guys.
So hyper protesters, just knock it off, tone it back. Let's bring it down to like once or twice a month.
Right.
So
I get why they're doing it this time around. Like, I understand that the media is going out of their way to make it into a racist thing. I turned on the news. I made the mistake of turning on Fareed Zakari. Jesus, man. Like, that was a mistake. Of course, there was another angry liberal on there just screaming, everyone calling everyone racist. It's like, we're not racist, man. Give 5 seconds and listen to our
I'm going to
things.
probably say this on a weekly basis, but anybody that's on some type of outlet and you're screaming your points, nobody's listening. It doesn't matter what side you're on. If you're liberal or conservative, just knock it off.
It's just a little frustrating too, just because right before the election they were like, I bet if the Republicans don't win, they're just gonna protest and be upset and not be good sports. Protest everything.
Yeah, I mean that is what Republicans
dudes,
did for 8 years under Obama.
They protested inside of the government. They didn't actually march down the street. You didn't see Republicans.
I'm pretty sure that no liberals dressed up like Ben Franklin. So I'm just saying those guys
Party.
were out there.
The Tea Party was a plague on the Republican Party. I mean, they kind of
Glenn Beck's Unity concert or
even
whatever
those guys
the hell.
hate Donald Trump now. So, and like I said, I think that I was on Facebook today, and I saw one of my buddies, and he was all upset about it. But there was over 100 comments on this thing, and most of them, there were some that were doing just yelling at people and calling them racist and whatnot. But a lot of them were trying to argue about why we're for this. You turn on the news and it's 100% negative against Trump. And that's what we're saying too. And I have a little bit of a problem with Trump going so overboard with it, where we're on the media and there's all that, but they are fucking dishonest.
Coining fake news. Fake news is like the biggest joke in the world. First of all, for any of you that don't know, fake news has existed forever. We always called it BS back in the day. Like now,
they called it Fox News.
that Donald Trump has coined a phrase. Like now, anything.
Now, to be fair, it was being used against him, and then he just picked it up and was like, "Oh, look, they're using fake news."
On both sides now. Anytime you hear an argument that doesn't agree exactly with what you think, you deem it fake news. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
That is not the reality. People should be able to disagree and come back to the table. And now it's just fake news. We won't get off on fake news, but we will have to sometime readdress it because I have a lot to say about fake news. I don't think it's good. I do think though that in keeping with executive orders and immigration, he did have a meeting with Mexico this week. Well, it was a phone call, not exactly a meeting. But that came after an executive order that he issued on immigration. So
basically with the executive order, I mean, the main thing is most certainly the wall. He's making good on the promise. They are going to be building a wall. In the executive order, they say the reason to build the wall is to stop drug and human trafficking, illegal immigration, and acts of terrorism. I mean, you could maybe say the cartel is acts of terrorism, but I don't really know what they're
I
saying
don't
with
really
that
know
one.
what that is. Although it all sounds good, and I don't know who's going to disagree with you and be like, we want those things. Those are fine. Don't worry about it,
Right.
guys.
Well, and one thing that I thought was weird about the actual executive order is on Section 3E, they have the wall where they say we're building a wall, but it's in parentheses. And they keep saying, then they later refer to it kind of as a physical barrier.
Well, the
we
reason
already have that in a lot of spots.
I
Like,
heard. I think
they can climb over it.
Don't
though.
quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was like Roy Blunt, maybe earlier this week that
He does anything.
that I heard on another radio show, a competitor.
Oh shit! Fuck those guys.
So no, but yeah, because they know who we are.
No.
No, but here's what was kind of explained as far as that physical barrier goes. There are certain areas on the border that are like 1,500-foot canyons that someone
Right.
would have to scale. Like they're saying, we don't really need a fence there because if somebody can, well, probably because if somebody can scale 1,500-foot canyon, you deserve to be in.
Right. Like, you
like you
win.
probably
Join one of our sports teams. We'll love you.
Yeah, right. New shortstop.
I was
We
a
got
kid
you.
in Mexico now, like, yeah, all right.
Yay!
I can do that.
Again, we are not experts, and we do not speak for the American government.
Hey, my name is Hernandez. Okay.
And I know part of the executive order too stated that they would strip funding from sanctuary cities. Add 3,000 ICE agents and thousands of Border Patrol police.
50,000 Border Patrol guards.
15,000?
No, 5,000.
5,000. Okay. And that was met with the resignation of the head of those guys.
Yeah, well,
So,
they can cry about it if they want.
That's interesting.
The other thing I thought was really interesting in the actual order itself was it says that they were going to build detention facilities near the borders to house illegals, which kind of sounds like detention camps. So it makes me a little nervous.
Yeah,
Like, that's
maybe
some weird wording.
maybe an alarm's going off somewhere. Sorry, I heard that sound effect in my head. That
I mean,
wasn't
they're
there.
not death camps. We totally promise.
Yeah. The other thing that's interesting about it too, and while it doesn't totally, here's the thing: this states that legal immigrants charged but not convicted of crimes could also be shipped out. That means that, let's say that you weren't born here, you weren't born in America, but you were here, you've been here since you were a kid, like you're more or less an American citizen, you did everything the right way. Don't
Dreamers?
jaywalk.
Yeah. You're talking about the Dreamers where, they're basically American citizens, but not really.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you're getting shipped out because you were charged
that's
with a
always-
crime. You weren't convicted of a crime. And then you have to kind of question, like, well, how much do we trust the police? Because we're putting a lot of faith in that system then if you can just ship out somebody who was charged with with something without ever having convicted them of that.
And that's messed up. And like I said, there's always overreach in any of these type of executive orders.
Yeah, I think that's a big one.
That's it can be if it's used incorrectly. It can definitely be a situation that we don't actually want. But I don't think that the rest of it is determined by just that one bit that probably won't be used.
So basically, what happened though this week between Donald Trump and Mexico was Donald Trump gives a speech talking about how he's going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it.
Just nothing new.
No, nothing new. President Nieto gives a speech and says, look, we're interested in working with the American government, but we're not interested in funding this, and so we'll have to talk about it. To which Donald Trump responds, well, if you're not interested in it, then don't even worry about coming to Washington. Clearly now that you've challenged his national pride, he has to back out, and there's nothing different that you should expect. Like, come on, dude, you played it.
Mexico has been very adamant about we're not paying for the wall.
Right, and
Donald
they're
Trump
probably
has been adamant that they will pay for the wall.
and they're probably not going to. So his proposal of a 20% tax on Mexican imports
He might be able to make him pay for the wall.
probably not gonna
Probably
happen.
won't happen, but he might be able to
I'm pretty
do it.
sure he doesn't
mean-
have the jurisdiction to even impose that. So
it would depend. It might have to go through Congress.
it would have to go through
but-
Congress. I think there's some loopholes. I won't say what I think about that because I have loose facts, but I will post the link below as to
There you go.
where that gets
Hidden links.
discussed.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, when it comes to Mexico and trying to make them pay for it,
Even if you did put a 20% tax on imports,
Yeah.
let's be real, the price is going to be paid for by the American consumer that's
well, it
buying
depends
Mexican
on what it
products.
is. So basically, the main thing that they're sending over is fruit and food, produce,
Right.
that type of stuff. So yeah, I understand the argument to where they say if you put this tax on it, they're going to either increase their prices or not ship as much over, which will
Right.
create scarcity, which will then in turn cause the price to go up. It's the
Right.
consumer hitting it. Now, I think that the American people and entrepreneurs need a little bit more credit than that. I think that it's see a need, fill a need. So if we start getting a shortage, well, I can think of my family. They've got farmland that we're not using. There's a ton of people, especially in Missouri, who's got farmland that it's no longer viable to farm anymore because we can get it cheaper from these other countries.
Well,
They might start using their farms more, and
Yep.
then it might bring an abundance and prices go down.
Maybe, but
I
you
don't.
also-
I can't say for sure, but
you also have companies like Monsanto and other GMOs
Yeah.
that make that very unattractive too, because you
Yeah.
basically become a slave to
But
big.
if all these people actually started organically farming for themselves, we could have a lot of food.
Yeah.
We just don't do it.
Yeah.
And I think that before we didn't need to, because, I think strawberries are ridiculous at $5, but I still buy them. So
Right. Yeah, no, I
there
get
hasn't
it.
been any shortage or anything.
The long story short, for me at least, where I kind of fall in the Mexico Donald Trump relationship, have a better relationship, dude. Like,
Well,
because
you saw the joint
they-
statement they came out and said, as soon as they did that, they canceled the meeting, and he was like, "Oh, well, I guess we're not gonna meet." The peso plummets. Immediately, he calls back up and he's like, "Yeah, we need to talk about
here's
this."
the thing that's important to keep in mind.
America is powerful when we want to be. We can throw our weight around and get things done in our favor.
Here's what we have to consider. Next year is Mexican elections. In 2012,
He won't win re-election, I promise.
no, he won't, and that's very dangerous for us. And here's why: because
Mexican Donald Trump will rise up.
in 2012, the runner-up. First of all, President Nieto was elected with only 38% of the vote. The runner-up was Lopez Obrador of the PDR, which is the Party of Democratic Revolution, which you're talking about the Sandinistas. You're talking about Chavez. Like, you can,
Yeah.
I'll post a link again to this video
Yeah.
where this information comes from, but I'm going to have to agree with Karl Rove when he was talking to Neil Cavuto. I know it's crazy. A
That sounds
liberal.
crazy.
Take,
I don't agree with these guys half the time.
taking Karl Rove's side, but this guy, this Lopez Obrador, he's running again next year. Donald Trump is stirring up your anti-American sentiment,
Yeah.
and so you think it's bad now with a pro-America regime running Mexico. If a crazy Chavez style leftist gets in, like, you're talking about zero trade cooperation, you're talking about zero border cooperation, you're talking about zero drug cooperation. Let's cool the temperature on Mexico a little bit, because it doesn't
I don't
have
think
to
we
be
need them nearly as much as it's made out to be. I mean, just honestly, I don't think we do. I think they do because we're buying their things. We have a trade deficit with them. Their economy is doing good. That's another going off on another tangent here with the wall. I don't agree with the wall. I don't agree that immigration is an issue right now.
they're coming
just-
for you.
Oh shit. I don't think it's been an issue for a long time. And I think that we're in this weird paradox where people want the wall because they think it's going to help them. But at the same time, the whole reason why they've stopped coming over is because our economy tanked. Mexico's economy has been doing better. We build a wall, hurt the Mexican economy. Won't they come back in?
Well, yeah,
It's
I mean, we
like-
talked about it last week. There's not a huge immigration
It's a
problem.
self-defeating
So
concept here, but
it's interesting that we put so much. I think, again, it's the Republican way of making themselves feel warm and fuzzy.
Well, I think it's the American people. I don't think it's just
we got to put our white
American
picket
people-
fence up on our border.
Yeah, they want that
and
wall. Like that's been spoken loud and clear.
It's
People
fine,
want the wall.
but when
I
nothing,
personally don't. But
when
if we're gonna
nothing
get it, that's fine.
changes other than like $4 billion, okay, well,
Yeah.
pat yourselves on the back. That was kind of pointless. So I don't know. We don't have a huge problem there.
Yeah.
But I think as far as his executive orders on immigration this week, that's pretty much where they stand. So we'll see what he does in week 2 with stuff like that. I know
Yeah.
that obviously we'll I'm sure over the next few days we'll find out what that what the Brooklyn judge and his halting all of this moving forward, what implications there are there. He may wind up missing. Who knows?
Right. They might do that. They might continuously.
They might kill him. They might actually kill him.
Shit. I think they might. Start
You will
doing
not
that.
tweet unless I say it's okay.
And if the judges start fighting back, if they start finding ways to shut down his orders, then we'll see.
We're doomed.
We'll see. Everything is rigged. We're all doomed.
Oh man, yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Week 2, what immigration brings. I'm sure the conversation will get a lot louder and a lot further apart, but it'll be interesting to see. So
Yep, I agree.
So another thing that Donald Trump signed this week was some memoranda on the Keystone pipeline and the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Right. So basically, I mean, obviously the one that's we've heard the most about recently is definitely the Dakota Access Pipeline, the DAPL. We see it huge on social media. I mean, Shailene Woodley
Only
was
social media.
basically, the actual media networks have basically just completely blocked it out. For like a few days they had it on there whenever Obama said, basically shut it down.
Yeah, whenever it was.
That was it.
Yeah, it was convenient for them.
Yeah, they gotta missed a lot of it.
Right.
But for people who don't know, so Dakota Access Pipeline's already 90% done, 1,100 miles. It's going to be coming from North Dakota, coming down through South Dakota, Iowa, and then going into Illinois, where it's going to meet up with a bunch of other pipelines, go to some refineries. So basically, the biggest opposition that people have had to it is really from Standing Rock, the Sioux tribe.
Right.
They've been protesting it since 2014 when it was first announced. It was already supposed to be done by now.
Right. And the reason they're protesting it is because it crosses. Is it in Illinois that it crosses?
I don't know the exact site, but it's going to be traveling underneath the Missouri River.
Which is their only source of water.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit north of where they're at, and so if there's a leak,
it's
going to get into the drinking water.
The environmental concern is the main concern.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, like, just for anybody that's confused as to whether or not this is going to happen, nobody's going to stop this. It's being funded.
No, they aren't.
Insanely by everyone. And
was that Texas? I can't remember who's actually building it. Coincidentally, Trump does own stock in the place that's doing it.
I can't remember,
but lots
either,
of people do, and it's
well,
going to happen.
It's being funded by pretty much every world bank, so it's not going to get stopped. The question is, like, how do you move forward from this standoff between between the people that are there,
it's a legit concern,
the environmentalists and the tribes themselves,
and
then the companies. And I get it. Now, something that's interesting about it, and I would be interested in knowing if there has been a lawsuit filed against the federal government or the companies involved in the pipeline, only because
as far as I know, there hasn't. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but still.
Which, if not, it's interesting to me because based on what I found, and this could be wrong, I'll link to it, but what I found was that based on the Fort Laramie treaties of 1851 and 1868, which were basically the treaties where the government gets together with, I think it was like 7 Indian tribes, and says, this is your land, this is where it spans from, these are your reservations, whatnot. Based on those two, and those were set up in some way to, like, it was a compromise. The government wanted to complete the Oregon Trail, and the Indians were like, okay, we'll give you this, but here's the agreement that we're coming to. And in that treaty, the Sioux tribes' land included the east bank of the Missouri River. So if that's true, and if that still holds, it would be interesting to me in, like, how this all couldn't just be stopped with the lawsuit.
Right.
Look, this is our land, so
is the bank considered 20 feet underneath the bank.
Right. Yeah. No.
Well,
That's
technically we're underneath your land. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if that's the case or.
and that's
Everything that I have read has basically said that it's not going through their land. That it comes close, but it's not going through anything that is considered their land.
but it is going under their only water source.
But it is going.
And
Yeah.
therein
I mean, have
lies
you,
the issue.
I went and coursed the entire Missouri River on Google Maps, and that bitch is long.
Yeah.
You're going to cross it at some point if you're trying
Right.
to get from North Dakota to Illinois, the quickest route, unless you take a giant circle, in which case someone else is going to be upset that you're doing it.
Right.
I mean, they have a legitimate concern just because these things do leak.
Right.
7 years it's leaked. I think there's been 1,300 pipeline leaks. And they will say, like, oh, we get about 80% of it back. We still...
When they leak on land.
When they leak on land, yeah. When they leak over rivers or any type of water where there's rushing and there's current, they're picking up about 30%,
Right.
which is like a lot of poison.
So yeah,
So-
so the Sioux tribes do have a legitimate complaint and a legitimate concern. My thing, like, if you look at the economic benefit, like, step back from the
That's where I'm coming from.
Step back from the tribes for a minute and look at the economic benefit. The DAPL creates about 1,200 construction jobs.
8,000 to 12,000
In
temporary
Oh, okay.
construction jobs.
And Keystone is about 28,000.
Yeah. And like I said, I've got an issue with that temporary construction jobs because they do it every single time, and every construction job is temporary unless you're endlessly building and tearing it down.
Yeah.
There is an end game involved.
Now, the one interesting number that comes up is the 40 permanent jobs that it's gonna keep. I wouldn't mind there. I wouldn't mind there being a few more than 40.
Right. I say just post them up every 100 feet or so and just say this, like, all right, Gregory, take a fucking look at this. And if it starts leaking, you tell me.
This is your pipe. This is your piece of the pipeline. You keep your eye on it.
That's it. It's like football. This is your spot, man.
You can have $7.28
Defend
an
the
hour.
spot. But basically, so the biggest economic boon for it is going to be coming into North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
And why I think that's important is not because I have anything in common with North Dakota or I know anyone from North Dakota, but they used to have quite a few of these places that were refining or at least transporting the oil. And I think they had 197 or so. And because no one could have guessed that gas was going to plummet, cut 50% of their profits out of it, they've closed down about 100 of them. So they're hurting. They've had to dip into the rainy day fund. I think the last I checked, they have 25 million left. That's not a lot for a state to. They dipped. What was it four? I can't remember how much. 200 million or something.
Yeah.
So what they stand to benefit from this is it's pretty substantial. Basically, North Dakota is set to get 156 million in sales tax per year. That's a big deal. That's almost as much as they've had to take out just to shore up those losses. Mm-hmm. I think it's also important to point out that it's not enough, but of course, per year, 2 years, it makes it back. But they're not the only ones. North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Illinois are set to get 55 million in property taxes. Yeah. So, and I understand where they could get upset. Where like, well, if that's our land, why come we're not making the property tax off of it?
Right.
I get that bit.
I don't have a problem. I think it kind of plays into the whole infrastructure thing.
It does.
The new deal, new square deal.
Well, construction workers have not had the work that they had in distant decades because we're not building anything.
I'm totally fine with all that. The one issue that I do have, two issues that I have with the story surrounding the DAPL is that there is not much of a story unless you're a social justice warrior, which we typically use as a bad term, but I think in this case it's probably a good thing because the media doesn't cover this thing, and even through the protests and the police,
it's the police that are really that's what
the police have
off.
Completely overstepped their ground there, shooting people in 12 to 20 degree weather with water cannons, which is
that's pretty inhumane, man. Like, that's a step across the line.
Pretty sure during the civil rights movement we kind of like checked that off the list as things we're not going back to that tactic.
That was degrading enough, and then the fact that
there wasn't a blizzard going on in those pictures. So
and come on, like let's be real. At some point, you get exposure. You are exposed to elements. Hypothermia sets in, and you die.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
maybe don't turn them into human popsicles.
Police shooting beanbags into crowds.
And the one lady got her arm blown off.
Right. It's
It's messed up.
Just like in the rest of America, like the police need to figure it out. Just because you have, the weaponry, just because you have the equipment, doesn't mean you always have to jump to it.
But we did all this cool training. Come on, man.
Right? Why can't I drive a tank down the street? Yeah, like you
They're
don't.
not cardboard dudes. These are citizens.
Right.
You need to calm down.
Not Call of Duty. You don't get to respawn, and neither does he. So just calm it down.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that.
I'm not against arresting them. If they're trespassing, arrest them.
If they're really trespassing,
if
you
they really
have
are.
legal grounds to do it. So
Get them out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. I think we're both in agreement that
I don't think
fucking pipeline is getting built. It's gonna happen.
I don't think that I don't think that protesters should be violent towards police, and in the same respect, I
No.
don't think that police should be violent towards citizens or protesters or
Right.
whatever. Whether or not you agree with their political ideology, like.
Right.
You have a job to do, and the fact that you wear that badge should be important enough to know where the line is.
Exactly.
And so you know,
I do not see it from the environmental standpoint. I don't. While there are leaks, we need to be vigilant on them. If they're not, people need to understand this is coming from the I always say Bracken. I think it's Bakken oil fields up in North Dakota, and they got this all from fracking. It's already done. They're doing it. Either they're going to get it out from this pipeline or they're going to ship it out on railway, which has twice the emissions from coal. It doesn't make sense to oppose this from an environmental standpoint.
Here's what I wouldn't mind
Not if you drive a
seeing.
car, if you used electricity.
In my Brandon Stopic utopia.
I want to live there.
I'm like Ronald Reagan. I make up words. So
Bigly.
here's what I wouldn't mind seeing though. Like I wouldn't mind the U.S. government and like these tribes or whoever, these companies getting together and coming to a compromise here. Like, okay, we're gonna route it under the Missouri River. We'll go this far underground so that if there is a leak, there's already some kind of barrier. And I wouldn't
Use the thicker steel.
And
use
if there is
the
a
shut
leak,
valves.
some sort of agreement to where the responsible party, whether it's the company or whether it's the oversight, the government, makes sure that they have
Here we
clean
go.
drinking water.
I got one. Add a clause that says that if it leaks within 1 mile of the riverbank, that immediately FEMA and all them start sending out help with fresh water and stuff, so that they have their water. The problem is the water supply. Put a safeguard in there that they're going to get safe water and then be done with it, because it's going to happen. They've sunk $4 billion into it, and it's done.
$3.7 billion. It's going to happen, and I don't disagree with you. I
We're
think that's
fighting
probably
the good fight. It's like, no, like it's not. Gonna
I don't
happen.
have a problem with Keystone and DAPL as long as it's done ethically. So put that clause in there.
No, I agree.
Give those people that reassurance that everything's going to be taken care of on the off chance that something bad does happen, and then I think move forward with it and that's
okay.
it.
I think we definitely agree on this one.
I do too.
A reminder that the president's top aide just told the New York Times that the press should keep its mouth shut. No.
All right, so we're gonna do a quick speed round here. We got about 3 things that don't really have too much time to expand on, but at least we'll be able to kind of get preliminary thoughts out of the way. First off, Steve Bannon's comments.
Steve Bannon can shut up. Oh!
So what did he exactly say? He told the media basically to shut up.
Yeah, he told the media to shut up and listen for a while, and
I think the media's fucked to begin with.
yeah, I know that's part of your little fake news plot over there.
Fake news,
but
when they don't report the news, I tend to think it's fake. I don't know.
no, what they did report was the fact that Donald Trump is concerned about his size,
Of
and
everything.
so he got mad about that, right? And I mean, the fact of the matter is, the media is going to do what the media does. Look, you want to go
They're
talk
going
to
way overboard
You want to
here
go talk
lately.
to Sean Hannity? He's going overboard in the other sense, and the only person that's gotten a legit interview, or the interview that Donald Trump would cite that you should watch is the Sean Hannity one. Well, duh, because Sean Hannity's throwing
It's fake news.
He's throwing Nerf balls at you the whole time. Like what?
Right.
what
I'm gonna
is
go play
going
catch
on?
with Sean Hannity. Tune in at 8. It's gonna be great.
Right.
No, so I get that aspect of it, but
I think
the
whenever-
main media is liberal, and they are just being
I think whenever
ridiculous with their coverage.
any administration
Beyond
in
bias.
any country tells the media to stop talking,
Well, especially
that's
a
when
media
the media
executive,
needs
like,
to be more
Steve
vigilant.
Bannon, you are media.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude.
He is.
Like-
Well, that's what's great when Fox likes to do the whole the lamestream media. Dude, you guys are the epitome. You are the most
Yeah.
watched network.
I went in stages of realizing how absolutely ludicrous the media was. The first and the most obvious, glaring to me at 18 years old, was Fox News. We knew those guys were full of shit. It took me a little longer to realize how full of shit MSNBC was.
Oh, horrible.
Which
It's like a
that's when
clown
I stopped
show
being a
over
liberal.
there.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, you guys are just totally one-sided and fear mongering. And then when CNN this past year has really shown me their true colors with all of the way that they've covered everything and omitted covering certain things and just. They put so much time and effort into Donald Trump's Hollywood tape, and I think they figured it out. It was like 50 minutes or something for every 5 minutes they talked about Hillary's emails.
Right.
It was ridiculous.
That had nothing at all to do with the fact that he won the election. More free coverage. No,
You can
that's
say
a
that.
bad argument. That's a bad argument.
It's bad coverage.
No.
If I'm on the news day and night saying this guy's a chode bucket, and then he wins, and you're like, well, I mean,
all publicity is good publicity.
I think that
right?
Donald Trump has a knack for turning bad publicity into good publicity. I don't know how he does it.
Celebrity.
Yeah, but I don't think
That's
that
the
was
answer to
clearly
your
not
question.
the intention. Just because your plan to smear someone backfires
I think-
doesn't mean you were helping
Do you
them
agree
out.
that whenever anyone in an administration tells the media to shut up, that's probably not a good thing constitutionally?
No, I think that. Yeah, I think that's just.
As long as
I
it's
don't
your
think-
side telling the other side to shut
No,
up,
I think
that's okay.
I think it's bullshit. Either way, I think it's bullshit. But I do think that there is a legitimate grievance with the mainstream media right now.
That's fine. You can think that. I think that on the other side too, but I don't think that on either side anyone in power should be telling the media to stop talking. Like that's covered in our first.
As long as they don't make
right.
an order saying they can't talk, I don't care what they're saying.
Well,
But
when they-
if they come out and are like, "Hey, guess what? You are no longer have the right to talk," and then we've
You
got
no
an
longer
issue.
have the right to stand in the room to interview the president.
Although there's precedent for it. I'm looking at you, John Adams, Alien Sedition Act, arresting journalists left and right. Second
Right.
president, way to go.
So
it's happened before. I don't think that we're gonna get to that point, but
I don't think we're going to get to an agreement on Steve Bannon, but Steve Bannon, shut up.
yeah. All right. So second one is would definitely be that Donald Trump and Putin have talked on the phone as of yesterday, which would be Saturday.
Right.
I haven't seen what they
Not a
talked
lot's
about.
come out of it yet. I haven't seen. Too
I've been
much
kind
on
of
it
away
either.
from the news cycle though, so I
So-
don't really,
Instead of talking about what happened, let's talk about what we think happened. Gossip.
I think I think that Trump and Putin talked about how they're going to take out ISIS and are making a plan to where we are going to. I would think that Putin is going to want us to back Bashar al-Assad officially. I think that it would only make sense. And I mean, I know that Iran does a lot with fighting ISIS, working with Russia. We don't have a good relationship with Iran. We never have, and I don't think we have any reason to. They have never done anything for us to make us be like, you know who I want to help out? The Iranians.
You know what?
No.
You want to know what I think happened?
What?
What I think they talked about?
Docking.
No, I had instead of giving you some smart aleck answer, what I will say though is I think that much like Obama did, Trump is probably the same guy to be like, you know what? I really want this relationship to work out. I'm going to lift these sanctions without getting anything in return.
Oh, that would
just
be,
like
dude,
like
you would
Barack
see me
Obama
coming
did.
out against it.
And
Real
so,
hard.
okay, way to show your card. Way to show
Yeah.
that they don't have to work for.
Now,
for
obviously,
anything.
you know my position where I think that war with Russia was coming along, and I would do almost anything to avoid it. But that's his shtick is I make good deals. I don't make bad deals where the United States doesn't get anything. If he were to come out and do that and were to lift sanctions without anything for us,
Our president is terrible. He's a bad negotiator.
I would be okay with lifting sanctions if they were to officially come out and say that they are going to work directly with the United States Army on the ground to stop ISIS.
I can't imagine
that would be worth
And
it to me.
back to your last point, I cannot imagine it being a good thing to back Assad. Like I can't think.
Well,
I can
he's
see
won,
that
so there's
being-
not much
I can
of a
see
point
that
in
being a
backing
thing
the
that-
rebels.
that Putin wants to do.
They
but I can't
lost.
see it being a good thing to do.
We had a chance to determine that situation,
And
and
we
we
didn't.
passed it up.
Yep.
So I don't think the fact of the matter is that Assad has won with Russia's help.
Yep.
And we're just going to have to get on board with it or go to war. That's the only other way we can stop it.
Fair.
So
So
yeah, that's what I think
I don't know.
personally.
We'll see. We'll see how close we get next
Yeah.
week on that. That's probably nothing. They probably just called each other and they're like, "I like cupcakes. I like cupcakes too.
I love cupcakes too. Yes, comrade, totally. All right.
In
so
Soviet
then,
Russia, we have no cupcakes."
so speaking of foreign things, also we had Donald Trump talking about how he personally feels on waterboarding. Where you at, man?
I think he probably has experience with those Russian prostitutes. So is that
I
what it was?
understand how water
Waterboarding, water
works.
sport, water. Are those the same thing?
Pretend you're a water gun, and I'm like,
I'm not cool with torture. Like, so I'm not good. Whether or not what I don't.
do you
care.
think it's torture?
Yeah.
Do you really think that it's actually torture?
I watch Archer, dude, and I think that it's totally torture. No, I do think it's torture, and I think that
I think it feels like torture. I don't think it actually. Well,
doesn't it kind of, to me, it kind of falls in line with, well, did the police really beat up that guy? Was that really excessive force? Yeah, I think it was.
yeah.
So
Here's my thing on waterboarding is in a nutshell, it lasts about less than a minute. Everyone who has done it has given some sort of information. If you're
says
doing,
a guy who's never been waterboarded.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's a big thing.
It's no big deal, dude. It's just a minute.
I don't feel like waterboarding is torture, but I am positive that if I was ever waterboarded, I would feel like it's torture.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
that is
pretty
just-
sure you would.
Yeah, that's obvious. I mean, I think a lot of things that aren't torture feel like torture right now. But the bottom line is it going to help? Obama didn't let Dick Cheney release the
So
the
Donald
stats.
Trump should.
Well, if you listen to his actual comments, he said that he personally agrees with it, but he's going to give his generals and the people in charge of it the authority over him.
That's the one
He's actually
thing-
giving people authority over him
That
to
was
make the decision.
the one comforting statement that came out of that whole thing to me was that because I've seen Mathis say, especially on Russia, I've seen these guys disagree with Donald Trump. And if
Yeah.
you're going to take the stand that like, look, this is how I feel about it, but I'm going to let this guy who I think is more
Yeah.
qualified, then kudos to you, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's Brandon Condit saying that. Like there should be like alarms and whistles going off somewhere, but
Well,
I think
You're
that
a dino, so you know.
that did make me comfortable. So I hope he does that across the board with all of his advisors.
Yeah.
If
And I
Donald
think
Trump
he does.
questions
Donald Trump seems like-
himself, he should
Yeah.
let somebody else make the decision for him.
I think that Donald Trump will do that when it comes to let people run their departments, unless he thinks that they're doing a bad job.
well, I hope so. We'll see. I mean, that'll really be the test of what kind of
Yeah.
like manager,
But
what kind of
personally-
businessman he is. Are you
Yeah.
going to let this guy handle it and just trust
Right.
that he'll be okay? I hope he does.
And personally, I think if it's going to save lives and you're in a last resort and they think that they can get something out of waterboarding, I'm not talking about holding a guy's nipple, pinching it with red hot pincers or something
Right.
horrifying. But waterboarding, if you can if
I
you can
just
save
don't think-
American lives, do it.
I just
That's
don't
my-
think that you
that's my
can
point.
because I think, and again, also speaking as a guy who's never been waterboarded, I think that if
Give me your swirly, motherfucker,
if,
take this.
If you're torturing me, then it's very easy for me to be like,
Yeah.
who's the biggest idiot you know? Rochelle. Like I'm gonna give,
Reliable information.
Right. I'm maybe so. I may have just gone against my own point. But the listener doesn't know that. So,
Right.
but I don't know. I just think it's easy to throw out something. Now, granted, those guys are probably not stupid. Like those guys that are interrogating
They probably-
also are like, oh, really? This person? That's
Perfect. I knew they were hiding it on Cupcake Island.
right. You're free to go. I get it.
I would
but
hope they're smarter than that.
I'm gonna say that as like just as an ethical and a moral, from an ethical and moral standpoint, I would say no. I'm not cool with any form of torture. We should hold ourselves to a higher standard
It
than
seems
that.
to be a common thread. That
We are the most civilized
Yeah,
nation in the world. Air quotes.
I call bullshit on that one. But
Like,
no, to me, it seems to be kind of the trend where we're, as Republicans, saying we're at war. I know liberals don't like to pretend we are, but I believe we are at war. And the thing that the roadblock we keep hitting is, well, we want to do the ethical thing. We have never done the ethical thing. Every country that has ever come on top typically hasn't done the ethical thing. I mean, just look at World War II. Whenever the British attacked all of the French naval ship after the French fell, they basically killed their own allies' naval fleet.
I don't think that's,
just so that it wouldn't fall into hands.
I don't think that's good justification, though. You can't say, well, because we've been D-bags before, it's cool to be D-bags now.
Well, I think that if you
hold yourself to a higher standard than that,
to the detriment of your safety, because that's our argument, is we're trying to be safe, and everyone's just like, well, I know, but we don't want to do that. Well, dude.
Yeah, but like, no, I don't think waterboarding. No, you're trying to get information from waterboarding. You're not trying to be safe.
We're not trying to see, what he thinks about Game of Thrones. We're trying to get information out of ISIS of him.
Yeah.
That's to save lives. We're not just doing it for fun.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
Here's an idea. Don't throw your intelligence agency under the freaking bus, and then maybe, just maybe,
well, I think
you
can
can find
bad
stuff
intelligence.
out other ways.
Yeah. Well, except for with ISIS. Obviously, that was Obama.
You'll
that was
say
just like,
they give bad advice, but think about how bad the advice is going to get if they keep getting thrown under the bus. They will keep stuff from him so as to not be thrown under the bus. And now we're
prosecute a couple of them as terrorists and traitors, and you'll see how quickly that lasts.
We don't charge people with treason anymore.
I would.
Treason doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
So
I believe it exists. So
I believe it does too. But
let's bring it back. If it's not,
Chelsea Manning is out and tweeting. So
she ain't out yet. She's getting there.
So anyway, but.
Another one we were doing, or is that it?
I think that is probably it. Here's one that I will throw in, though, just because I thought it was funny, and I'm glad that Donald Trump, here's another one that I give a tip of the hat to. Donald Trump, Bradley Manning saying, oh, well, Obama didn't get anything done anyway. First of all, dude, ma'am, stop. Don't be a jerk. You just got let out. Your sentence got commuted by 25 years. Don't be an a-hole. And then Donald Trump comes along. He's like, this ungrateful SOB. Kudos to you, Donald Trump. Call
her out.
So I'll give you that. But yeah, so I think that's about it for this week on the Devil's Advocate. We'll see again at what interesting things will happen next week. I do think that before long we'll get to a point where things kind of slow down because I
would think so. He's basically either made true on every promise or started to make true on every promise he's had on the campaign.
Right.
So he's going to have to stop at some point.
Well, Congress is going to have to come into play at some point. So we'll see.
And they work quite a bit slower than executive orders.
We'll see what happens. But as always, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Drop a subscribe.
Yep, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free. You can email us at thedevilsadvocate2017@hotmail.com or post any questions or thoughts in the comment sections of any of those pages. So now we leave you with Shia LaBeouf acting like a dumbass. Thanks for listening.
Actor and filmmaker Shia LaBeouf was arrested after getting into a scuffle at an anti-Donald Trump art installation outside a Queens museum Wednesday afternoon. LaBeouf, who has had a series of run-ins with the law in the past, was attending an interactive installation he helped coordinate outside the Museum of the Moving Image when a shouting match broke out between two groups. Cops said the actor allegedly ripped someone's scarf off and scraped the person's neck during the commotion. The 30-year-old actor was charged with misdemeanor assault and later released.
They say that